Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Yannis Pappas Hour. We are doing this in another studio after I've done 2 episodes of the History Hyenas. Due to scheduling conflicts, I have to board another flotilla to Gaza to report. I'm meeting my friend Greta, and we're going back on a flotilla. I don't know why they called it a flotilla. I've never looked too much into it. But you can catch me in Toronto on Saturday at the Royal Theatre. There's tickets left. You can catch me in Tulsa the weekend after. Tickets at yannispappascomedy.com and a bunch of other dates up on my website. Go check to see if your city is on the list. Patreon.com/YannisPappasHour for your weekly bonus episode and to support this show. I don't know what a flotilla is, but I do know that it seems like there may be no need to continue unless you want to watch Hamas executing people. That's what happens usually when a power leaves a vacuum. There's a power struggle, a little bit of a civil war, some executions. That's how you consolidate power immediately. I'm sure, I haven't even read about it, but I'm sure Hamas will say these were Israeli spies. I'm sure Americans will say this was Mossad co-op. Not a co-op. That would be that they would be sharing money for the walls of the building and all be shareholders. It would be a psyop. Covert psyop. Not a co-op. Not a co-op. Although a co-op of Hamas will be run pretty well. I think that would be a well-run co-op. Do or else. They've executed some people in the street and, made a big mistake by having someone film it. You got to turn the cameras off. And I'm sure Israel will say, look, this is what Hamas does all the time. Here's my thing. I think we need a media blackout. Just a break, a reprieve. I know a lot of people's identities are tied to this. I know a lot of people have become the sources of the information one way or the other. I know a lot of people have profited off this. I know a lot of people have gained followers off this by discussing this from the comfort of their studios. But I think we just need a break. What about a media ceasefire? What about a just detente? Just a media detente. An independent content creator detente. Independent media detente. Just a little break. It's been years and years and years. This has been the new COVID. We've just been talking about it forever. It's really been the new COVID. That's why I'm going back to local news. There are some apps out there who just cover local news. And local news, I assure you, is a lot more entertaining and also more of a fresh supply of variated fun news stories. Like, bear seen on Ring camera. Things like that. I want Ring camera news. I want to know what's going on outside your particular home and who tried to shake your doorknob to see if you left your car unlocked. Your core unlocked. That's what I want. I just want a break. Is that too much to ask? I just want to see people stop yelling at each other about a conflict going on, just not here. Just stop. I'd like that. I see everyone's points. I'm just saying I'm tired of seeing it. Are we not the real victims? People who have to hear this? Are we not the real victims? People who are just trying to live our lives and enjoy the luck and opportunity that we've had to live in a country that's protected by 2 oceans, to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Do I not have a right to not hear this? Do I not have a right to not be inundated with Israel-Palestine talk? Do I not have that right? I think I have that right. I'd like to press charges. I'd like to sue every independent content creator, poster on X, neo-Nazi, Jewish propagandist paid $7,000 a post. I'd like to sue you all for time rape, for time rape. Your Honor, I've had enough. It's time for a break. COVID is over. Now everyone's going, now they're yelling at each other about if you're celebrating or not celebrating the end. So if people aren't celebrating enough, they're being yelled at. And then there's other people who are yelling at the celebrators going, Israel's not going to honor this. They want to keep it going. Time to focus on business news. What's going on with Foot Locker shareholders? What's going on with the farmers market in fall? What's going on with the weather? Have we had enough rain this year? What are we doing for Christmas? Are we having it at the in-laws or our home? Did we get the chimney cleaned? Don't forget to tell the guy to also clean out the dryer vent, because that could be very dangerous. It leads to a lot of fire homes. Does our fence meet pool code compliance? I want stuff like that in my head. I want stuff like that. I want to know, are we getting Chinese tonight? I don't want to hear about Bibi Netanyahu. I don't want to hear the word Hamas. I don't want to hear jokes about Israel and Palestine. By the way, you can't tell jokes about Israel and Palestine because it's always too soon. I don't want to hear the word hostage. I don't want to hear the word terror. Terror. I don't want to hear the word Gaza. I just don't want to hear it anymore. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about my peace of mind. I'm supposed to celebrate hostages being returned that I don't know personally? How am I supposed to? Am I supposed to pretend like I care? I can try. I can try like you try. How do you care so much about people you don't know? That's how mental illness starts. People always say it has something to do with isolation. I equally think it could be caring too much about people you don't know. We don't have the brain capacity to care about strangers. How do you care more about people in that area of the world than you do strangers that you see every day? Is what I'm saying lacking humanity? No, because I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not doing anything. Isn't there something to be said about not doing anything? Can't we make that a virtue anymore? Can that become a virtue again? Not doing anything today. Can that become a virtue? Do you have to tweet and do something? You know how great the world would be if not doing something became a virtue, like a high virtue. You know, I don't see too many Buddhists on the flotilla. I don't see any Buddhists on the flotilla, and they're supposedly the paragon of peace. I don't see any Buddhists. Want to know why? They are too busy doing nothing. And if you're a Buddhist, that is not an oxymoron. I'm the only guy who could make oxymoron into oxymoron. I misspeak so much, it sounds like Eminem trying to rhyme words that don't rhyme and pulling it off. The most you'll see is a Buddhist setting himself on fire, but they've been oddly quiet about the Israel-Palestine issue, have they not? Do these Buddhists don't care? Are these Buddhists less moral than the pro-Palestine content creators? Have there been protests? Yes, there have. I stand corrected. There have been a lot. Okay. I'm wrong. They've also protested Hindu control of a shrine. So that's very un-Buddhist of them. You're not supposed to get up and do anything. I want you sitting. I want you sitting and being in touch with the misery of life and accepting it. Aren't you supposed to just accept it? Isn't that what Buddhism is? If there's a war going on and injustice, aren't you supposed to accept it because it's the way things are? Aren't you providing resistance to reality? That doesn't sound like radical acceptance to me. We need some more radical acceptance. Local news is a great thing to meditate on. A lot of people do transcendental meditation. I do local news meditation. Local news. What's happening on Route 6? I want to know what happened to a restaurant that caught on fire accidentally. Was it insurance fraud or no? Becky Donahue investigating. I want local newscasters who don't get recognized in the street. I want my news from those guys. I want my news from people who don't get recognized in the street, like any of these faceless women. Look at these, I want to find out what's going on in Chattanooga. What happened in Old Hickory, Tennessee today? A little more calming news. You don't have to know all the news. I don't think you get into heaven or not get into heaven if you believe in such a thing based on how much attention you pay to tragedies that have nothing to do with you. There is some moral imperative for you to not pay attention to tragedies, just as much as there is too. Especially ones that are ad nauseum. Nobody is stopping anything. It will continue. It's the way of the Middle East. It's the way of the Middle East. And I choose to not look. I choose to not look. If your protest is about the tax dollars that go to Israel's weapons, listen, you're going to have to take that up with your local congressperson. You're going to have to take that up with your local senator. That's a domestic issue. I can see your point. Your point is valid. But a ceasefire has been achieved. But college protesters say activism won't stop. That's interesting. Student activists say they'll continue pro-Palestine protests after the Gaza ceasefire, demanding universities divest from weapon companies. Oh, wow, now they're going all the way. Demanding universities divest from weapon companies to Israel's war effort. And then you get a call from your father going, I didn't pay for this. I didn't pay for this. Son, unfortunately, this is the way the world works right now. But I need you to get your sociology degree just so I can feel decent about the $150,000 I put in to this private university. You can't just camp out in front of the quad. We have officially graduated from one era to the next. One milieu to another milieu. And I found it interesting. And maybe I'll coin it here today. I've noticed. We've officially gone from the identitarian, I don't know if that's the right word used in the right context, identity. Let's just stick with identity. The identity politics, the victim identity politics mentality to the conspiracy victim mentality. That has become the new milieu, the new flavor of the day, the new popular framing. We went from I'm a victim because of my background. I'm a victim because this cherry-picked fact happened in history. I'm a victim because of this. And even though that currently isn't happening to me right now, or it's happening to others because of this, the whole thing. And we all know what that is. It was primarily white bad, everything else good. Sort of, if you wanted to elevator pitch it, if you were pitching a show to the Manning Brothers production company, you would say it's the elevator pitch. White bad, anything else good. History, white bad, everything else good. Perpetrators and victims. Hasty generalization. Something you could throw on a meme. It's got to be able to be thrown on a meme. We're in this meme culture. Now I think it's become, we're a victim of the deep state. We're a victim of covert psyops. We're a victim of the all-knowing Jew. We're a victim of Israel. We're a victim of the weapons companies. We're a victim of billionaires. We're a victim of Saudis. We're a victim. All these things are holding us back from our personal goals or something like that. We're making the world unjust. Something like that. But what they are doing is giving me something to do when I otherwise would have to do something very hard to achieve what I want to achieve. Much like a trolling account, anyone can be an activist, right? You don't have to pass a certain bar of intelligence or achieve a degree in activism. And this doesn't go to say, obviously, that there's great causes to be an activist of. But I can't help but notice how good we still have it within these borders. But all you really have to do to become an activist is just identify with other activists in the cause. But much like the identity politics era, you notice you can never be conspiracy enough. It's the same thing when you couldn't be progressive enough. It was this thing that kind of snowballed, right? So if you said one thing that didn't sort of vibe with the open, endless harangue against all things European, you were ostracized, excommunicated from the group. It's similar now, right? It's gotten to the point where if you don't continue to go with the Jews are behind everything, you say, if there's one thing they're not behind, if you're late for work and the trains stop running and you blame that on the MTA, or you blame that on the sick passenger, or you blame that on just pure unfortunate happenstance and not the Jews, you're kind of treated sus. You lose a little riz. Your aura loses a few points in the social credit scoring of the group. I'll give you a great example. I like to peep in. I like to peep in echo chambers. I just like to peek in. I like to peek in on little niches. I like to peek in. There's a gentleman on the internet who's a young kid. His name's Nick Fuentes. And he believes that the Jews are a very well-organized international cabal and that they're behind everything and they need to be excommunicated from a very majority white Christian country. He's a Christian. He's white. He loves being white. He wants a white wife. He loves Gavin Newsom because he's got a white family. He hates Kash Patel because he's not white. He's just white. He likes skin color big. Kid's into skin color big. He's into Christianity big. But he does not like Jews. Jews are not white to him. He likes Christian whites. That's his thing. He leads a movement. He's a good speaker. Of course, he's a squeak. And supposedly women are falling in love with him. I don't know. But he runs his mouth, which is the way you make your money nowadays. You don't make your money in middle management. You don't make your money working your way up in a company. Those have all let people down, right? You work for 20 years and you get fired, treated like a cog in a wheel. A lot of companies are going away. It's tough to start your own business now because everything's done online. You can't make money off your fax machine at the paper store like you used to. My mom used to have to go make Xerox copies at the paper store and use their fax machine. That's out. Don't need a travel agent anymore. That's out. And we're only on the cusp of what's about to become. So you make your money running your fucking mouth, which is how I make my money, running my fucking mouth. And this kid knows how to run his fucking mouth. Charlie Kirk knew how to run his fucking mouth. You're confident. You practice. You run your fucking mouth. You get emotional. You call these people the fucking Antichrist. You fucking run your mouth. You make it exciting. What do people hate more than injustice? Boredom. Boredom. If you want to win people over, give them the opposite of boring. They don't care if you're fucking cutting someone's head off. As long as you fucking make it entertaining, it's great. We don't care. We're not moral. You're telling me a species that has made true crime the number one genre cares about morality? No, we like to watch it. We like to be entertained. People always talk about, are people good and bad? People are bored. They don't want to be bored. I think more than being oppressed, people don't want to be bored. That's the worst thing. Because nobody complains even if they're worked to death. Because they're not bored. They don't want to be bored. So this kid runs his mouth. And as an example, he recently said he doesn't think Israel killed Charlie Kirk. Now, what do you think happened? How predictable do you think it's these things are, you don't need to be Grok AI to see the patterns, how easy the patterns are, right? You don't have to give AI more credit than it's needed. We can all know how that's going to go when all your followers love you because you hate Jews. So if you suggest that Israel is not behind Charlie Kirk's assassination like Candace Owens does, then your fans get mad at you. They want it to be Israel. They don't want it to not be Israel. They don't want it. Just like people who saw those executions. I mean, these are predictable. I haven't even looked at the internet today yet. But I can guarantee you there will be, Palestinian sympathetic accounts saying that this is a Mossad operation, those aren't real, or that these people were conspired with Israel to steal food and aid, and they will rationalize the public execution of citizens. I guarantee you. How hard are these things to predict? Because people do not like any evidence that contradicts in even the slightest way their position. They just can't. So that's where the rationalization begins. Next thing you know, you're betraying what you thought your morality was and sugarcoating and approving of public execution. And it's as fucking easy as pie. Do you see the anatomy of what I'm saying? I mean, it's pretty. Did you follow? Was that what's well said?
Gotcha.
Was that explained?
Gotcha.
That's how simple it goes. You'll go, fucking Israel's killing these civilians. You fucking can't kill civilians. That's bad. And then you'll watch Hamas execute, 25, 50, doesn't make a difference, on camera, kneel down, blindfolds around them, back of the head, chanting whatever they're chanting, and you will say, I can't wait to get on X and see it. You will say that without a doubt, these people that were not tried, had no due process, without a doubt, these people, because Hamas said so, were people who, without a doubt, 100% conspired with Israel, not only conspired with Israel, probably stole aid, something that justifies their public execution. And you will be completely blind to the fact that you have just glossed over or supported the killing of civilians based on a subjective analysis on their guilt, which is exactly what you were railing against Israel doing. You'll be unaware because the most important thing to you is to maintain your side. And you'll have to say something about it because it's all over the news. And of course, the other side is using it as, you see. So all these commentators just perpetuate these things. They just perpetuate it. It just keeps going. Like I said, it's a pickleball match between retards. I think that was my saying at some point on the show. So that's what happens. That's the parallel I draw, right? If you were progressive and you said, wait a second, this person who is accused of sexism, let's look into it a little bit more and make sure that this is valid. You'd go, what the fuck? What are you fucking talking about? If you suggested, for example, that there was a element of difference in what women and men chose for unemployment, and that in large part, or even little part, contributed to the wage gap. If you said maybe women tend to choose this job more than men, and that maybe plays a role in the way, if you even suggested that that was possibly part of a causal factor, if that was needed to be included in the data, just even suggested it, you were excommunicated from the milieu. Good French word. Milieu. You were excommunicated from the club. And if you suggest maybe the Jews didn't kill Charlie Kirk, you'll be excommunicated from that group. The Pepe the Froggies. Because once you go down that road, the Jews have to be behind it. Candace Owens, to her credit, is doubling down on the crazy, which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to double down. I'm no Jack Black. I don't play Jack Black. I don't play Jack Black, but aren't you supposed to double down on the 11s or something like that?
Always double down.
Always double down. Okay? There was a leaked text message that did show that he was leaving the pro-Israel cause and that donors were pulling their money. And for Candace and others, that is enough to suggest that Israel had him killed. Just because donors were pulling their money and he said he has to rethink his pro-Israel stance. That's enough. That is enough. That JFK said he wanted the UN or whatever, I don't even remember, to inspect to make sure what Israel was doing with the nuclear weapons was enough for Israel to kill JFK. So it's enough. Enough. They don't need more proof. Then Candace went on to say there was an Egyptian plane. Okay, at first she said he got shot from a trap door underneath him. And then she changed it and said he actually was shot by the front. and his spine or whatever did stop the bullet. That's why there's no exit wound. Or I don't even know if there's an exit wound. Hasn't seen the body, isn't a coroner, isn't a forensic scientist, didn't do the autopsy. I don't know if she just throws the shit at the wall. The Zionist occupation government, Zog, anti-Semitic theory that claims a secret Zionist organization controls the governments of Western countries. Proponents of this conspiracy allege that a hidden cabal of Jews control international banking and through it the government to conspire against non-Jewish interests. If they had all this control, why would they pick such a fucking shithole as their... Why wouldn't they just go take over Sweden? The Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is a proven fraud. That's a proven fraud. That was plagiarized. Did you know that about the Protocols of the Elders of Zion? Yeah, that's been proven, like almost a word forgery from a fiction, I believe, if I remember correctly. Can you look that up? And then George Soros' puppet master. So the thing about conspiracies is sometimes they're true, sometimes they have a kernel of truth, sometimes there's an ancillary truth, sometimes there's just enough to open the door, and that's all you need to do. And then it becomes about, fraternity, really. It really becomes a fraternity. It's a way to find friends. It's a group. It's an identity. So the Protocols of the Elders of Zion is a fabricated text purporting the detail of Jewish plot for global domination. The text was exposed as fraudulent by the British newspaper The Times in 1921 and by the German newspaper Frankfurter Zeitung in 1924. So if the German newspaper was doing that in 1924, I mean, they really don't want it to not be true. So beginning in 1933, distillations of the work were assigned by some German teachers as if they were factual to be read by German school children throughout Nazi Germany. So they went back on it and said, well, it could be a fraud, but it's very useful fraud. But it was actually fabricated from. Can you look up what is it from? Because I remember reading about it. It was found. It should. The creators fabricated to show that it could not. Blah blah blah. Argues it was manufactured. Oh, it was manufactured in the months after a Russian Zionist Congress, September 1902. Originally a parody. Yeah, it was some play or something, some fiction that it was originally a parody of Jewish idealism meant for internal circulation among anti-Semites until it was decided to clean it up and publish it as if it was real. So these were events. The title of Sergei Nilus' widely distributed first edition contains the dates and is likely that the document was written this time in Russia. So yeah, it was some sort of Russian, propaganda at the time against the Jews. So I'd like to know what exactly it was because I read it once. But anyway, source material for the forgery consisted jointly. There it is. Dialogue aux inference entre Machiavelli et Montesquieu. Dialogue in Hell between Machiavelli and Montesquieu, which was a political satire by Maurice Joly in 1864, and a chapter from Biritz, an 1868 novel by the anti-Semitic German novelist Hermann Godusch, which had been translated into Russian in 1872. So it was lifted from these fictions with analysis and proof of its fraudulent origin dating back as 1921. Written mainly in the first person plural. The texts include generalizations, truths, and platitudes on how to take over the world, take control of the media and the financial institutions, change the traditional order, blah, 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 blah. So, I don't know. That's an aside. Back to the original point. I've just noticed that, and I wonder what's underneath it. So what is underneath it? Well, underneath it is victim culture. It's definitely victim culture. It's a continuation of victim culture, and this one has seen a rise on the right. So it's sort of an equal but opposite reaction, which is ironic to the identity victim culture of the 2010s, till the 2020 or whatever, 2016, whenever it started to die down. So the victimhood culture has kind of given way to another form of victimhood culture, and this has sort of sucked in everyone on both sides. Of course, I still think it's more fringe, but the fringe is the loudest and prominent because that's what the algorithm obviously rewards. You don't have time when you're speeding 100 miles an hour, which is essentially an analogy for your scroll on your feed, to stop and read a nuanced, detailed account of something. You have to, it's got to capture you quick. Give me the car crash, sweetheart. And so this has risen now in its place. They're both phenomena of they're both a phenomena of the internet. They're both born on the internet. They're both born out of ignorance. They're both born out of cherry picking facts. It's cherry picking facts to create a victim structure based on a power structure that you sort of create, that then thus gives you an identity to perpetually rail against. It becomes the most important thing for you to do that day, which makes you feel productive and makes you feel in a group, understood. Like I said, it's an easy way to feel productive, which is what we all want to do. Easy way to feel important, to feel seen, which is really just all humans want. And so I think the tenets of what are underneath both are the same. And the reason for both are the same, And the cause is the same, the internet, right? So one went out of style, and then now it's just fucking conspiracies left and right. Even the president gets in on it. Epstein is a, Democrat hoax, which basically means it's a conspiracy. It's a hoax. And then you got conspiracies like the Epstein conspiracy, which are clearly true based on facts, and that gives rise to questioning of everything. There's a lot of big ones, the deep state, stolen election theory, the dead internet theory, that the internet is no longer primarily run by humans, but by bots. Now, here's the situation. That's partly true. I think it's not that it's run, but I think AI is running a lot of the internet. Algorithms, fake accounts. So I think that's the dead internet theory is actually not as crazy as you think, because it is being run by AI in a lot of ways, and tons of bots, which are controlling the algorithm by how much engagement they place in certain, simulating humans to trick the algorithm. So that is true. And I do think, I don't know if it's designed to manipulate human behavior, but I think it's been hacked to manipulate human behavior. You'd be so surprised to know the origins of a lot of the things you believe. Just like the protocols of the Elders of Zion. I mean, so many people believe that, and they, and then you find out it's like when they found out that account from Brazil tweeted that edited video of the kid wearing the MAGA hat, chanting, or getting the fucking Indian guy chanting in his face, and he edited it to make it look a certain way, and it came from some unknown account in Brazil. You're going like, oh, and then you find out it was edited, but people have already started believing the thing that they first saw. Because once you believe something, I think it's harder to change a belief, right? I think that's scientifically proven. That's a bias. It's harder to change a belief than to grok one in the first place. I think something like that. I wonder what would be the actual science on that. Yes. Changing a belief, especially deeply held, is almost harder than changing almost anything else about a person. Cognitive dissonance, humans hate being wrong. Here's the biases. Confirmation bias. These are all in our brains, whether we like them or not, because this is all about survival. Tribal belonging. Beliefs aren't just, they're tied to communities. Emotional anchoring. Beliefs often carry emotional weight. Belief versus behavior. Behavior can change fast. Right, that's what I'm trying to say. Belief is harder to change than anything else. Behavior can change fast. Diets, routines, that's easier. Knowledge, you can update with new info. You know, you go to Paris, you learn Paris is the capital of France. But beliefs, because yourself and your morality is so tied to it, is the hardest to shift because it's tied to meaning, not facts. That's what the science says about that. And it's obvious that that's true. You ever try to change someone's belief on something based on facts or anything? They won't change it. These are cognitive biases. This is how the brain works. But why this has become such a dominant force now, victimhood culture, that they're both under the umbrella of victimhood culture, I think is because there's real world anxiety underneath everything. What's the world going to look like? What can I dream about? What is actually possible? You know, what is happening now? There's something smarter than us. I can find all this alternative information. This makes me completely insecure. My belief is this, then I hear that. It's just, everyone's on shaky ground, right? So I think people feel overwhelmed. And when you're overwhelmed, I think that signals that you're being victimized by information, by things outside your control. So you grab onto something you can't control. And that's a little fucking fun little Telegram group where you guys can sit around and throw slurs around. And then all of a sudden the world feels grounded. You go to sleep with a smile on your face because you have something in common with a bunch of other people who are unaware of how scared they are and how much they're projecting their fear into hate of some imagined conspiracy against them. Something like that, right? Does that make sense? Because it's really scary to pursue your individual self-aggrandizement when you're kind of subconsciously aware, even consciously aware in some cases, that the opportunity may not be there and the future is so uncertain and things aren't planned out for you anymore. You're not forced to do anything. You almost have too much freedom in a way. I guarantee you there's a lot of people who are young because of the gender spectrum now are actually having mental health problems because of how many choices there are, right? Sometimes you walk into a Baskin Robbins and you're like, what the fuck? I can be they, them. I can be Zunu. I can be Hooby Dooby. I can be a he and a her. I can be a she, him, them, bop, boo. And you're like, what? And I think they just may be overwhelmed by the choices. And they don't want to be boring. Nobody wants to just be a he, him. It's boring. But then which one do you choose? You ever walk into an ice cream store and there's just too many fucking flavors? It actually, a good experience turns into a stressful one. Like, fuck, I'm kind of in the mood for coffee, but what's this new fusion that Jimmy Fallon has put his face on? And there's what? Steve Colbert has his own Chunky Monkey? So your beliefs, it's your identity, confirmation bias, belief perseverance, cognitive dissonance, and emotional reinforcement are all biases that you would have to overcome. And it's no easy feat to overcome nervous system survival instinct to fit into the group of a social species in order to survive for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of so many fucking years. This protected you. And it worked for someone in your line. Do you know that every person who's here had someone survive long enough to reproduce in their line, and they think they're just going to be able to overcome these fucking things just because we have elevators and machines? No, this is going to take hard work. Everyone's got to go to fucking therapy and just overcome these things. You think you're just going to turn into a Zen master overnight? You're going to master yourself overnight? You're going to overcome these flaws, and these are obvious flaws, right? These are obvious flaws. They're flaws. They hurt you. They limit you. They enrage you. They make you believe you can control things you can't control. They confuse you because they don't match up to reality so good. And then when you see everybody else joining in the same delusion, it reinforces yours and becomes the reality, which is not a reality, but a fiction. And fictions always cause mental anguish. Yeah, they always do. Ultimately, they always will. Even though, illusions are sweet for a while, but they always crash because the truth always rears its head one way or the other. And I think sometimes it's even worse. The longer you believe the delusion or illusion, then you're more tied to it. So then when the truth comes and smacks you in the face, it hits you harder because you've realized you've wasted so much time on a lie. So that also makes you cling to the lie more because you don't want to feel like a loser. You don't want to feel like you wasted all that time. It's a high stakes game. And so I understand why people battle so hard against information that would contradict what they believe. Because once you start believing it, that's time you've put into your life, having that as your identity. You've gotten dopamine hits from the connections you've had with other people who believe that same thing. You felt good about your tweet because you stuck it to the man. You felt good of the just thing you did. I was fucking out, the time you spent writing the pamphlets, putting on the fucking scarf, holding up the sign, blocking traffic, getting pushed down by a fucking construction worker who was angry because he was late for work and you were blocking traffic. You did all these things. The more you do, the harder it is to undo. Nobody wants to face that their life was a waste. Nobody wants to face a belief that wasn't true. Because then you wasted your time. You wasted your life. Nobody wants to think that being a nude cyclist in an anti-ICE protest is a waste of time. If you know how fun that feels for the in-group, it's a community. It's fraternity. It's a version of an instinct we all have, which is to survive in the group. Nobody does this by themselves. Right? They look at each other and they go, we doing it? You doing it? I'm not going out alone unless we all do it. Let's go nude and bike. So titties are out, dicks are out, whatever they're doing. So, this has to be on the West Coast, right?
Yeah, Portland.
Yeah, it's Portland. Portland nude cyclists join anti-ICE protesters. Now, of course, there's a whole nother side to this. Of course, activism does change things. Activism, when there's a good cause, brings change, pulls down evil power structures, forces governments, power structures, to repeat myself, to make moral changes, updates. There is power in numbers, union, it does play a important role, if not the most important role, in change in the context of corrupt governments, dictatorships, whatever. So there's that too. But I'm just saying, I've noticed underneath this, people have turned to conspiracies that don't really affect them, right? Used to be people would protest about their particular job not getting enough work hours or not getting enough money, something that actually affected them personally, that was concrete, right? My religious freedom or something tied to them. Now people are protesting things that have nothing to do with them. They're believing things in the internet that have nothing to do with them, and in a lot of cases are not true, which is interesting. That's different from protesting something that's happening to you and your community and that is unjust. It's close to home. Now people are lost caring about things that our brains don't have the bandwidth to care about, know about. And they're doing this because I believe they're scared, and being a victim to all these things makes them feel better about their powerlessness and helplessness to how fast things are moving. Things are moving way so fast, and when things move fast, people get fucking thrown out, and nobody signed up for that. You weren't told about that when you were coming up in school. They didn't tell you, hey, this is all bullshit. You're going to be able to fucking ask AI the answer to these questions in 5 seconds, and you're not going to be able to eat if you're good at social studies. So what you need to do is learn how to fucking really predict the movement on crypto. Nobody prepared you for these switches. You went to schools and you spent time and you got A's, B's, and C's, and you built your identity on your liberal arts education and thought that being a straight A student meant that you were going to be a successful member of society. And then you see high school fucking dropouts building a following online, selling BetterHelp ads, outperforming you financially. They didn't go to school. They never had a professor who actually did something in his life and was teaching from experience. They just went out there and started reading books and articles and started running their mouth for money. And you said, what the fuck, man? Let me get on board with this, and maybe I can say the same things and build up my little account. Let me start by getting in the comment sections of this pile-on. Maybe I'll say the wittiest thing, and maybe I'll get 10 followers, and maybe one day I will be able to make money run in my mouth. And then when you don't, you get bitter, and you become a raisin in the sun. And what happens to a raisin in the sun? It festers. And you become a victim of not having cheddar. Because at the end of the day, what do these things have in common? Lack of cheddar. By cheddar, I mean money. Lack of cheddar, lack of money, lack of fame, lack of being seen. But at the end of the day, money, because people can really look the other way with fame if they got a lot of cheddar. Nobody with a lot of cheddar is going to give that up for the fame, right? Nobody's going to say, I'd rather the fame and be broke. Ideally, people want both, right? Even though they don't even know what it entails and how it's no different and in some ways less great. Everything is like that. But nobody is ever going to give up the cheddar and say, I'll take the fame. They'll say, you take the fame, give me the cheddar. Because with the cheddar, I can do things that the fame can do, and it's more sustainable. I can eat, and I'm more secure. So at the end of the day, there's no cheddar. And there's anger when you watch certain people doing certain things and getting cheddar because they're good at running their fucking mouths in the run your mouth fucking economy. It's going to piss you off. You went to school, you went to college, and it pisses you off. And I understand. Some of you watching this are going to be pissed the fuck off. But you're going to be, you know what's going to make you feel good? Go to the view count on YouTube. And coincidentally, You won't be mad. So what are you really mad? Like, if the comedians who went to Saudi Arabia just went as a cultural exchange and didn't get paid, would anyone be mad? Ask yourself that. Would you be upset? Take a second. Blank your mind. So hey, let me give you the headline. Bunch of comedians go to Saudi Arabia for seminal, groundbreaking comedy festival in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, as cultural exchange for people of Saudi Arabia. You can even hear it. What's there to get mad at, right? What's there to get mad at? Now, comedian gets paid $400,000 for one show to go to Riyadh. All of a sudden, you're like, what fucking human rights? What the fuck? But people love to pretend like they care, like they have this high moral compass. We're all just self-interested pieces of shit. I've met a lot of people. I've met very few principled people. And I got to be honest, even the principled people were very principled, and I respected them very much, but they also become tough hangs. So there's no yin without a yang. But I've met so many people in my life, and there's very few that I could say like are unbuyable, right? I think that's what was so genius about that line by Jesus, like, he who is without sin cast the first stone. Every single one of these motherfuckers throwing a comment online would have fucking died for the opportunity to make 400 fucking K in one show. It's so funny that they think they would have the moral fortitude if they needed the money. Even if they didn't need the money, they think they'd be able to just go, well, I'm not doing this because of Jamal Khashoggi. Right, David? Who obviously must not be doing that well financially. He's certainly not compared to the people who got the money. I understand. Because you're probably not wrong. There's a lot who's to say what's right or wrong? I mean, you could even be right. But my point is, don't act like you'd be the one if you needed the money easily. That would change everything for you. But nobody has that self-awareness or humility to admit that. That's the problem. Nobody has that self-awareness or humility. You really think if Shane Gillis didn't have like 40 million that he's gotten very fast? I mean, he only got famous in a couple of years. Do you think if he didn't have that 40 million and he was offered a couple $100K to do that show, maybe let's say 5 years ago, you think he would have so quickly turned it down? Because there's one thing about America. You need money. Not saying points aren't valid. I'm just saying, come on. What's it about? Some of it is about that you're angry that you're not getting that money and they're getting that money, which I also understand because I want that I was fucking upset. If we were such a moral species, why were we so brutal all this time? These people think that they're the paragon of morality. Like what they're doing it's fucking power. You're doing a power dynamic. You got the power, you got the group, they're all yelling. You're part of everyone's vying for power. Nobody's vying for a just world. People who are vying for a just world get shot and put on crosses. How many people have there been in the world who really fucking cared about this whole thing? Right? This thing's got to be better. It's about power. Most people just align themselves when they feel a little wave. They feel a little wave going this way. It's survival. They're going like, I'm not going to be on the fucking outside of that. I'm going to be on this side of that. This has been proven with study after study. You know those studies where they turned all those kids into doing bad things because one person, remember that? And like they faked it. And then like everyone was like, started doing this evil thing. They do tons of these. It was, I think it was at Stanford or something. Can you look it up? It was the prison experiment. Yeah, the prison experiment. And there have been tons of variations of this study that have proven like this is just human nature. Most of us are followers. Most of us are not that bright. And most of all, none of us are that fucking courageous. Everyone acts like they're so fucking courageous behind a screen. Fucking put judgment. Yeah, that's because the spotlight's not on you, you fucking coward. You don't know how it feels like. But if it came on you, that's when you know. But that's humanity. This is humanity. And right now, it's an interesting observation I've had about how the zeitgeist has shifted all the way to the other side, but the anatomy is the same, right? It's gone from complete left-wing identity victim culture to right-wing conspiracy culture, with the left kind of joining in on that, and like something weird is happening. What comes next is either going to be a communist revolution or a fascist dictatorship. That's the anatomy of what I see coming. And I will survive those by swaying whichever way the wind blows, because that's another thing. I'm sick of hearing about your fucking ideals and everything when you don't got any skin in the game, okay? You know who has skin in the game? People who have progeny. If you don't think I'm going to fucking blend in with whatever immoral fucking power structure emerges out of this just for the survival of myself and the progeny, you got another thing coming. And if that means putting you down for something you didn't do, I'll do it. Because guess what? That's what I really care about. Sue me. Sue me. And people who don't care about their own family are fucking scary. You know when someone cares about something so much, you're like, this is dangerous. This person should not be caring this much about this. Those people can be a little dangerous. But it is good to care about justice and all those things. And, you know, obviously this show's about entertainment, so I have to take a contrarian viewpoint at some point just for jokes. So just scrap everything I said. It was all for entertainment value. You know, whatever your cause is right, and all that was bullshit. There's no truth to it. Everyone is getting to the bottom of what's really going on, and everyone's going to figure it out. And every single person, every sleuth out there, everything's right. Everything you believe is right. It's right, and I agree with it, depending on if powerful people agree with it. And if they do, I agree with you. And if they don't, then I'll hang you in the street myself. Want to give a shout out, as always, to forthefree.art, music in Hawaii. Check them out. Bands, music in Hawaii. Always good to see them. Nate Linder, go check out his podcast, Entrepreneurship Unlocked with Nate Linder. And, of course, IndigoLabsAgency.com if you need digital marketing. But check out his podcast with CEOs. He interviews all types of cool people. Also, PCB Tech Art. You know, if you're having wireless charging issues in your new vehicle, shop PCBTechArt.com. Find them on Amazon. Rebels-Raiders.com. Go to his website, rebels-raiders.com. They're raising money to cover legal costs for Charlotte's Hills Farm Sanctuary in New Jersey. They're under attack again. The state's trying to force them off their land. The sanctuary is a legitimate 501c3 nonprofit, and with over 200 rescued animals, and they need help to fight back. Just go to rebels-raiders.com, click on the charity tab, and it'll take you straight to the GoFundMe. This kid cares about animals.